Hola, it's Jessica here. I'm going to show you how I made this simple and easy but elegant universal cupcake stand for your dessert table. So I went on Google and I found this chart for angles, and I decided 50 degrees was perfect for the height and depth I would need to fill in the table. Then I got a scrap 2x4 and marked about 20 inches down just to give me enough room to make my lines and my cuts. Using a triangle, I made a 90-degree straight line, and then using my compass ruler, I marked at 50 degrees. So then going about 2¼ inches up, I made a mark, so that's going to be my beginning mark. So that's going to be where the first shelf starts. And I did mark where the front is, so I made sure everything was going in the right direction. And then using an L ruler, I marked it at 2 inches and 4 inches on the edge of the board. And 2 inches is the depth of the step of like the shelf is going to be 2 inches deep, and then 4 inches high. So my next step is going to be 4 inches higher than the last. So at 2 and 4 on your L ruler, you just line that up with the edge of the board, and that's how you get your step. And then I made another 90-degree line at the top. However, I'm not going to cut a 90-degree line. I'm just using that as a reference. And once I got that 90-degree line, I used my compass ruler again and marked at 50 degrees to mark my top shelf, my top step. And then I just erased that 90-degree line to eliminate any confusion for myself. So the palette boards I'm using is going to be smaller than the 2x4 width at this angle. So I just marked the width and then I brought it in 1/4 inch so that I would have 1/4 inch lip on the top shelf. I almost forgot, on the bottom step, the one that's on your table, you need a 90-degree angle off of your 50-degree angle that touches the first step. This is so that you don't have this weird angle coming off from behind the first shelf. And you just can take your L ruler and make that by lining it up on the 50 degrees and having it touch the first shelf. So I lost the footage of me physically cutting it out from this point, but it is all drawn here, and you just make this first cut, then you make the 90-degree second cut, and then you're going to cut out each step, and then you're going to make the top cut. Each step is 2½ inches deep and 4 inches high. To make the shelves, I use pallet wood and cut 20-inch lengths from each pallet wood. The pallet wood measures about 3¼ inches by 1/2 inch, and then I cut 20-inch length. So for the top shelf, I left a 1/4 inch lip on the front of that shelf and then measured the back part, which was 1 inch. So I have to cut off 1 inch from the back, and I made it a 90-degree cut so that the shelf would line up. Marked the angle that the stairs were kind of making on a 2x4 leftover piece of wood. It ended up coming out to a 30-degree angle that I cut. I wanted to split this 2x4 to create 2 legs, so they have the same top angle but 2 separate legs, one for each step. So here's what your pieces look like so far. You have 2 2x4s cut into steps, 2 legs cut from 1 2x4, and 4 pallet woods cut to 20-inch lengths. I went ahead and sanded each and every piece using 120 grit sandpaper, and then went back with a 300 grit sandpaper for a little bit more smoothness. Now using your drill, I pre-drilled. Make sure you are high enough to catch the steps and low enough that it will be more secure. And you're going to put 2 drills in each leg, but I initially just did the first one, pre-drilled it, and then using the countersink, I countersinked that pre-drilled hole. Then I started to screw in the screw, but however, don't screw so far that you actually have the screw sticking out. It's just going to help you on this part right here. I put my wood glue in, then I went ahead and screwed it, and I can hold the leg without having to hold the screw. And then went back and pre-drilled a second hole into the stairs, the steps that I'm calling them, countersink that, and then screwed in a second screw. So this will prevent it, when you have two screws, from like rotating on itself like in a circle. And the wood glue obviously helps sure everything up. Repeat for the other side. And if there's any glue drips, right now is the best time to clean that up before it dries. Now to start assembling the shelves, I put the stairs 16 inches apart, and then the shelf itself is 20 inches apart, so I needed about 2 inches on each side to center it. Once I got my steps lined up, I went ahead and pre-drilled and countersinked and then screwed in. I put 4 screws on that top shelf because I thought naturally that's maybe where people would want to pick it up from, so I wanted to secure that better. And then I just put 2 screws on each of the other shelves or steps, but you are welcome to put 4 on each shelf or step. So now the staining, I used a red oak wood finish stain, and all I did was got a brush and a lint-free paper towel and just kind of doused it in there and rubbed off any excess. And don't forget to turn it in every direction so you get all of them. And once I did the back, I went ahead and did the front again just to make sure that there was no like drips coming off of the back. Once the stain has dried, I sprayed it with 2 coats of polyurethane following the directions on the can. And I did this just in case any food got on the cupcake stand. It'll just be easier to wipe off and last longer, which ended up happening at our party. The cupcakes ended up melting from the heat and we got icing all over this thing, but it wiped up really easily. And that's it, you're done. This dark stain I find lends itself very well to many themes. So if you just want to do this once and use it for many parties, it'll last. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to thumb us up, speak it and spread it. And God bless. I will see you next time. Bye bye. Go, Everett. Do it,